Hey, this is Ben Turkovic, the drummer of Breaking Even, and you're watching Gearheads. Alright, so main kit. This is a Yamaha Stage Custom Birch, 7-ply, 22-inch kick drum, 6-ply, 12 and 14-inch toms. For the snare, I have a 13x7 D-drum Dominion maple. I prefer the sound of birch shells when it comes to kick and toms. It just has a certain warmth that you don't really get with maple. Not to say maple's bad, it's just personal preference. I do a lot of heavier music, and that's kind of what you want. You want big, boomy sounding stuff. Maple snare, I've tried steel snares in the past. Birch, a little too dark. I need to have it a little higher tuned, and birch usually doesn't have as good of a reaction tuned higher. The maple just, it was a good blend of the amount of ring that I need that is too much in a steel, but also the amount of body that I have, which is too much in a birch. So, big fan of 13-inch snares. It just feels better when I'm doing double kick stuff. It's just, in the studio I always use 14, but live 13. Over here I have a little side snare. It's a PDP 805 series, 10-inch side snare, maple shell, just little accent thing, nothing special. Don't use it too much, but it's there. As far as heads, on the kick, Evans EMAD, because it's really one of the better kick heads you can get on the market. Toms always go coated G2s, Evans. Snare, HD dry. I love the way the HD dry sounds. It cuts down on that ring, so I usually don't have to use a moon gel with it, but at the same time it allows just enough. It's a great mixture when a moon gel is too much and open is not enough. So it's a really good compromise with these, so love the HD dry heads. As far as hardware, I have DW 7000 double pedal, PDP 700 series hi-hat stand. I like to stay with DW, but I went with the PDP. It seems like it's a downgrade, but the way the floor plate is, it's a little more squared off. DW is a little more round, so it's easier to kind of get your foot on. So I like going with that. Cymbal stands, just PDP 700 series, nothing too special. As far as my cymbals, I've got full soul tone setup. For my hi-hats, I have 14-inch wave hi-hats, custom brilliant. Before I started using soul tone, I used a lot of the Master Sound accelerator kind of hi-hats that have the crimped bottom. I really just enjoy the sound of them. They're very washy and very crisp. I like a high, almost glass breaking sound from my hi-hats, and they definitely deliver that, and that's what I love about them. As far as my crashes, I have custom brilliant 18-inch crash and custom brilliant RA 19-inch crash. Custom brilliants I love because they're good just what a cymbal should sound like. They don't have a particular sound for a particular genre. They're just, if you need a big crash, it's a big crash sound. You need a small crash, it's a small crash sound. They're very similar in sound to, say, like Zildjian A Custom, Peisty Signature Series, Sabian AAX. Like, this is Soul Tone's, really nice line of bright, brilliant, great sounding cymbals, and I'm absolutely in love with these. The Custom Brilliant RA, it's half waved normally like the Custom Brilliant, and the inner part of the cymbal is a different hammering. Don't know exactly what that does to the sound, but I love it. When I was picking them out, put these two side by side, and they really complement each other really well, so that's what I went with. For my ride, I have a 21-inch Extreme ride. It's very heavy, very dark, dry sounding. I don't use it for crashing. I like a ride to sound like a ride, and I like a crash to be a crash. Very pingy, cuts through really well when I'm doing heavier stuff. The bell on it is amazing. 17-inch Extreme China, same deal. very raw sounding, very in your face, cuts really well. When I'm looking into rides and chinas, they're more effect cymbals. What I'm using most musically are my crashes and hi-hats. That's why I have really musical line, but as far as wanting to cut through and get an effect across, I go with real dry cymbals, really out there. So the extremes fill that role really well. So as far as sticks, currently using Vic Firth American Classic 5As, wood tips. I was using like 8As for a while, or 8 5As, and then I was using 7As, and I just went to the 5As because it's easier. It's a common stick. I'm a really heavy hitter, but I don't like breaking things, so I don't really use the 5Bs too much. I have in the past, but 5As just seem to fit me better, both in length and width. So I use wood tip as opposed to nylon. I know some people don't like wood tips because they may chip. Some people don't like nylon because they break. For me, it's more of a sound thing. I like the feel of wood on cymbals more. Nylon gives you a more tinny sound, especially on rides, which isn't a bad thing if that's what you're into, but I don't know, it's never felt right to me. It's never really quite sounded right. I've never personally had an issue with wood tips breaking off or nylon tips breaking off. For me, it's more of a sound thing and a feel thing, and that's why I always go with wood tips. I go back and forth between Remo coated Emperors on the toms and the Evans G2s, but more often than not, I'm going to be using coated G2s than anything else. So, really the most important thing is getting a good sounding kit. The room makes a huge difference when it comes to recording drums, but a bad drum kit in a good room isn't going to sound good. However, a good drum kit in a bad room can still sound really good. So the most important thing is picking out what cymbals, what drums, what everything you're going to use, and getting that kit sounding as good as possible, and then you can kind of work the room. It's a lot easier to work around a really, really good sounding kit than it is to attempt to, finagle a really bad sounding kit. So, for me personally, it's my kick. I'm a pretty hard hitter with my snare. I don't really need to hear that. As far as my drums go, the most important thing for me to hear is my kick, but as far as everything, probably vocals and guitar. Bass, you're just going to be feeling it anyway. Usually just rhythm guitar and vocals. Vocals kind of help me get in the mood with it, and my playing follows what the vocals are doing very closely. If it's a more high energy part, I'm going to probably open up the hi-hats, pick it up a little bit. If it's a more calm part, I like to accent different words by hitting harder and doing stuff like that. I can play off the vocals in a lot of ways, and that helps change the song in a really interesting way. So really live, for the sake of playing, I like to hear my kick because it makes me a little more precise, but it's mostly just vocals and rhythm guitar. I unfortunately do not maintenance my drums as much as I should. That only is because I have a kit that I trust. I've taken these on the road and used them over and over, and they sound consistent. It can go from super warm area to the next night super cold area, and the drums can get horribly out of tune. That's the most beautiful thing about these shells and these Yamaha Stage Customs is they're really hard to make sound bad. They may not sound how you want them to sound, but they're never going to sound bad. And I think really the most important thing to a new drummer is go quality over quantity. I've been there. I've done the 5 crashes, 10 chinas, 7 zilbells, 19 toms. And it's fun after a while, but all that does is it encourages you to have a lot of bad sounding stuff. And it's, when we tracked our album, I had a lot more cymbals and one more tom than I use live. And so I just have to translate that onto a smaller kit, which is fine because it helps set up time, and I know what each drum is going to sound like. I don't have to worry about tuning stuff too much. They hold really well. So really, younger drummers, just focus on what you have and not having the biggest kit imaginable. Focus on hardware, especially hardware that you can trust and that you know isn't going to fall over. I don't know how many times I've seen like local bands go to hit a crash and the whole boom falls over and stuff. I've seen national bands where it does that. Have equipment that you can trust and don't worry about how big it is. Same with guitarists, same with everyone else. Just no matter how young you are, it's never too early to start really getting a professional setup going. Yeah, that's about it.